Hello everyone. You might be a little bit confused as to where the Steve Park video is. Rest assured that is still in the works. I've had several requests on it for the time being, but in the meantime I've had several other projects in mind, one of which was this one. You may have seen a teaser for it on Twitter not too recently. If you have missed it, this might come as a big shock for you, but here it is. It is the first of hopefully very many episodes of the Thunder Night podcast, and I am joined by two other big fans of the sport that actually have more racing credibility than I do, frankly, and that's why they're perfect for this. Starting off with you, Zach.
How's it going, Pat? Thanks for having me.
How's it going, boy? He's had. Tell us a little bit about your background, your racing background there.
So, my background mostly as a fan, as you know. My family raced short tracks in Central Florida right around the time I was born. For whatever reason, they decided to get out of it before I could get in a car. So, I've watched a lot of races from the stands, but active on iRacing, as you know, and just overall addicted to the sport. I like seeing cars go fast, man.
Tell us about your connection to Lakeland Speedway, if you don't mind.
All right. So, in the early 90s, my mom's dad drove a race car that happened to be sponsored by my dad's dad. And rumor has it that I was conceived under the grandstands of Lakeland Speedway, what became USA International.
Of course, that's history now. Unfortunately, Lakeland Speedway does not exist as of, what, like 4 years ago or something like that? So,
Something like that. Yeah, it is an Amazon warehouse now.
but the memories remain. And of course, third and last but not least, Shawn. Tell us a little bit about yourself there, big man.
Yeah, man. Thanks for having me, Pat. It's good to be here. I don't have too much to add to that because unfortunately my story is pretty much the same. From Central Florida, grew up with a racing family. Going back to my grandfather, he raced Auburndale, Lakeland, which is obviously USA International, Orlando Speed World. I think he even went up to Pensacola every now and then and ran the Five Flags back in the day, going all the way back to the '60s. So him, my father, my uncles, they were deep in it. I never got the chance to race. We moved from Central Florida to Savannah, Georgia, which is where I live now, just outside. Racing's kind of died around this area. We lost Oglethorpe, which was a fantastic short track. We've lost it. We pretty much only have Screven left now. But yeah, I definitely like the simulation. We race on iRacing, which is awesome. We're really big on that, and then just a huge fan of the sport. I can't say that I was conceived at a racetrack like Zach, so I don't have that going for me.
I don't think many people can, to
But
be fair. So he's kind of got
no,
one of a
probably
lot of
not.
folks.
I think there's more of us than anyone cares to admit.
Yeah, but yeah, no, just a casual fan of the sport. I love it. I like iRacing. Looking to probably get myself or my son a car here pretty soon. I just wish that short track racing was the way it was, 20 years ago. But maybe we can bring it back. That's kind of the whole plan, and optimism surrounding things like this.
Yeah, hopefully I can see that come to fruition. That'd be really cool to see. I know it's not as easy as it once was with that kind of business. For me, I don't really have anything as far as particular motorsports background, though one of my stepbrothers did mess about with motocross up in Central Europe for a little while, which scared my mom off from me ever getting into it properly, so I just kind of been watching from a distance. Rooting for him and other people that were on my television, but that's about as far as that went. I've just mostly been a stats nerd more than anything else, and just about the age of 6, so that's about it for me. And of course, other people will be watching this will know about some of the documentaries I've made already, and more to come, of course. Now, at the time of doing this, we're just coming off of a Kansas weekend. I did miss the ARCA race, though as much as I know, there was only 2 cars on the lead lap, so I don't know if there's really much to talk about there. But the truck race, there is a lot to talk about there, namely from the broadcast booth. Michael Waltrip about passed out doing his side of the commentary, and thus everybody watching, including myself, about passed out watching it. Zach, you had some thoughts as well on that mess.
Yeah, I mean, it's hard to do a broadcast from Charlotte, I think. It's hard to catch the energy of the track when you're that far away.
That's true, but I thought that, usually he's done a better job for truck races in the past like 10 years. I remember some of the ones they did for. Granted, I haven't watched too many truck races in recent years, but one of the few that I did see in recent years was a place like Martinsville, where he was at least able to keep the energy up somewhat, or at least provide valuable input. I don't know if he really gave a whole lot of either that particular weekend. Shawn, did you catch the truck race at all that during Kansas, or I forget? I don't know if you.
I did, and real quick, not to side rail this. As far as the ARCA race goes, man, I want to give a huge shout out to Carson Quapple. What a fantastic drive for his ARCA debut. I know there was only 2 cars on the lead lap. I know that
He was
overshadowed.
one of them.
Yeah, I mean it was amazing, to be honest with you. That young man's never been on a track that large. I don't believe he's ever been in an ARCA car. So for him to be able to do that on his debut is awesome. So I just want to real quick just acknowledge he was able to do that. He's a great guy, and I've followed him for a long time. Yes, the truck the truck broadcast. It's kind of been that this whole season. Nothing against Jamie Little. Michael Waltrip's awesome. Phil Parsons is Phil Parsons. I don't know. It seems to be lacking excitement. I'm not a broadcaster, but that's some of the most exciting racing at the moment with the way the next gen races, and I just feel like they're missing an opportunity to really bring that excitement out. So yeah, I agree.
Yeah, there's definitely opportunity there for it. What was I gonna say? That's part of the parts that I missed. I wished I got the chance to see the ARCA race was Carson's debut. I know that he put it together. That's as much as I know, aside from the 2 cars in the lead lap. Was he one of the 2 cars in the lead lap? I might have missed that part.
He was, yeah. He ran second in his debut.
See, there you go. So he actually was able to hold together. Because as far as I know, mostly he just drives the Cars Tour, right? He doesn't really do anything as far as the Big 3 series, or Big 4, I guess, counting ARCA now. So,
No, this was his debut. He is going to run the truck at Bristol, I believe, for Spire, which is going to be huge for him. So ARCA debut one week, truck debut the next. I mean, he's making some serious moves, and he deserves it, to be honest with you. I mean, you run second in your ARCA debut. We'll see what he does in the truck, but I have really high hopes for this young guy. So
Yeah, I personally think Dale Jr. is fast tracking him to the 8 car next season.
and the truck ride will be the 7 for Spire, right? Is that what that one was, or is it?
It will be, yes, the 7.
For the 7.
Sponsored by Hendrick Cars.
Well, which always confused me because I always go assume it's really a Hendrick ride. I'm used to seeing Hendrick sponsored trucks like in the 2000s and 2010s and so on, but not definitely not another team, let alone their own. But
that's true.
Go on, sorry.
No, I was gonna say that's true, but the one takeaway is that he's going to be in good equipment. I mean, he's going to be in equipment that's going to give him the opportunity to run very well. So I'm super excited. I think Bristol will be a really good match for his skill set. He's used to short tracks, and he's obviously not used to the truck. But this is probably the best case scenario for him with the way the aero is on the truck. He's not walking into a Kansas or a Vegas or anything like that. He's kind of fitting right into home. So I'm super excited for him.
Well, that's one of the things I'm glad that the Truck Series has maintained as a stepping stone for short trackers because they're not as aero reliant. They do got weird ballast, but that's just the way that it's built off a truck platform. Of course, is going to the weight over the back, and for folks like him, it'll be perfect. And as far as I know, the Spire Truck program is a lot better than a Cup program, but that'll be something we go about a little bit later. Because I wanted to ask y'all about what y'all thought about the Xfinity race at Kansas this last weekend. Start with you, Zach.
Yeah, no, Kansas was refreshing just off the fact that there were no Cup drivers to me. I felt like the racing was pretty good. Kansas puts on a good show. The Xfinity Series always delivers. And John Hunter Nemechek is on a tear.
He's definitely got the equipment. He's got the talent and the equipment. So it only makes sense that he'd be able to put it together. I mean, that 20 car has just been in contention every single weekend, it seems like. It's always good to see him doing well. And, just big ups to him in general for just putting it together every single week, with or without, issues or whatever else that might be trying to hold him back every weekend. He still manages to have a rocket ship under him.
It's paid off. He has been able to show his skills with good equipment underneath him, and he's going Cup Series racing.
He's going to the 42 next year, ain't he?
Absolutely. He'll be driving for Legacy in the 42.
Which I know is very bittersweet for you, given
the
circumstances.
Big Gregson fan here, but that's for a later part of the broadcast.
We'll go into that a little bit later. That about covers Xfinity, unless you got some thoughts of your own there, Shawn, because you did actually see in that one, right?
Yeah, I mean, no, it was a good race. John Nemechek, he's just, yeah, like Zach said, he's on a tear. I tell you what, man, Parker Kligerman, for him to race his way into the playoffs. I mean, he did it. He raced hard. Yeah, there was a little bit of contact there at one point during the race, with the person he happened to be racing for to get into the playoffs, which is unfortunate. But I mean, you can't fault either driver. I just was the way it worked out. But yeah, man, that's super awesome from him. For him, he seems like a really great guy, and he did it the hard way, to be honest with you. So I think that's a big takeaway for that. You obviously have the favorites. Austin Hills is to me one of the favorites, and then John Hunter Nemechek. But yeah, all around a fantastic race.
I'd just like to give
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, sorry.
Go ahead, Pat.
I was going to say right quick, just a quick big ups to Brandon Jones. I mean, he spun out fairly early, and he made a hell of a recovery drive. It wasn't the finish he wanted. I forget exactly where he finished, but
He finished second.
He finished second. Yeah, he didn't get to run down Nemechek, but
not many can.
he put it all on the line there. And yeah, you're absolutely right. After an early incident, to drive back and be in that
Through the
position.
grass.
Through the grass, yeah. Like I honestly thought that was his day over. Like that would have been it early, and that felt
Could
bad
have
for him,
been.
but he put it together when folks like me doubted him. So I just wanted to give a quick big ups to that. So that just about leaves the Cup Series. Of course, last but not least, last time we ran there, I believe we broke the lead change record, which I think was 37 lead changes at Kansas. We only got like 19 this weekend, but still a lot of. It was almost anybody's race, really. Never mind if you're in the playoffs or not. Everybody was jostling for a position, however and wherever they could. Hell, I honestly thought Harvick might even get away with it. He was leading for about a minute there, but Larson, I think, was going to be toward the end there too. And there's it was just great to see this people fighting it out, and it just was just entertaining throughout. I'm really happy with how that all came together. Zach, what you reckon?
No, yeah, like I said earlier, Kansas has been putting on good shows. This next gen race is really good on intermediate tracks. Like you said, everyone had a chance today or Sunday, and there was a lot of cars that showed promise, but that 45 car came back, put the moves on them on the last lap, and was able to pull it off. Interesting fact about that car, it's the same car that Bubba won in last year and that Kurt won in at Kansas. So they keep bringing it back and it keeps working.
Why throw it away if it works that good? And
absolutely, nobody else can match it.
I did not know that was the same car Bubba won in. That's actually taught me something there. So maybe that's part of the reason why it worked. There was just a little bit of magic in that 45 hat that helped him win at the last second. So
definitely cheated up.
A past tech inspection. We like innovation, but there probably was something going on there. Who knows? Shawn, what you reckon? Was it cheated up?
I mean, most likely. I mean, no, I'm just kidding. I think what makes
post the 45 car next weekend. Sorry, go on.
Yeah, no. What makes that track so awesome, to be honest with you, is for whatever reason that next car is able to race multiple lines. I saw Tyler Reddick ran different lines going into 1 and 2 that he did 3 and 4, which is pretty incredible, to be honest with you. Right there at the end of the race, to run different lines like that, just kind of opens the door for all kind of different racing. I mean, you're gonna see passing, you're gonna see guys getting squirrely. I think that's why Kansas is so good for whatever reason in this car. I don't know why, but I think that's why it was such a good race. Toyota's fast right now. Whatever they're doing, I don't believe they're cheated up. I'm not going to say that, but whatever they're doing, they're fast. I thought Denny Hamlin was going to win that race. If it wasn't for that late caution, I believe he would have. But yeah, I mean, dude, Keselowski was up there. Harvick. I mean, it was just a good race. It's what we want to see as NASCAR fans. You got guys running multiple lines. You got different cars leading. You got kind of anything can happen right there at the end. I mean, how about Logano, man? Logano was kind of mid-pack. Nah, I wouldn't say mid-pack. He was closer to the front than mid-pack, but just that late caution, he did his pit stop the way he should have, and kind of was running up front. It's just that's what you want to see.
Yeah, speaking of pit stops, how about the 14 crew? Setting the record for fastest four-tire stop at Kansas.
That was huge. And that goes to
Didn't
show they still got something going on with them. That's a hell of an
Definitely
organization
didn't
at the end of
expect
the day.
that from them. I know that.
They still come up with surprises.
That's
And
true.
one of the things that doesn't surprise me is, speaking of pit stops and pit strategy and middling cars, Logano has not, at least in my opinion, has not changed much since his rookie years. I don't give a shit the fact that he's got 2 championships, excuse my French, but it's just the truth. And I mean, he was parking in the middle of corners, like especially to the tri-oval, and he was doing weird stuff at Indy Road Course. I mean, wrecking people out for last place. But on top of that, his team, especially on pit road, makes weird decisions. I mean, didn't he? I don't know if what it was a truck link or something. Something was bent out a little bit. Maybe it was the right front toe angle was bent out on it, and they didn't even think to check the toe on it the first time around. They just let it go out there as basically a junk car. You know, they didn't have the equivalent of a required repair there. Otherwise, they would hold them for another minute, going off of iRacing's rules. But you know, I just find that the Penske team in general makes a lot of weird decisions these past 2 seasons, but definitely this year. And I don't doubt that's any different for Joey's side of it either. So I don't know what the hell's going on there. Maybe y'all can fill me in on that one, but it's leaving me with a lot of question marks from what I saw and what I've been seeing.
Well, one thing about Penske and Logano especially is they find a way. They may not have the speed, going into the playoffs. I mean, they didn't last year, and you had a Penske champion, but they find a way somehow, and they did it. They did it at Kansas. Like I said, he was running 12th, 14th-ish, I believe, and then that last caution. Somehow they found a way. He was on the front row. I don't think he could have held off Hamlin or Reddick. I mean, obviously he didn't, but they're up there. And if he just continues to do that, he'll probably make the Final Four the same way he did before. But he'll have to keep finding a way.
What do you reckon there, Zach? You similar kind of sentiment, or?
Yeah, Shawn pretty much touched on it. Penske has a pedigree, and you can't count them out. They do. They find speed. They find a way to win races, and obviously, like last year, they find a way to be there at the end.
Speaking of finding a way and pit strategy, I'd just like to come back to trucks for just 1 second, because I just reminded myself of this. Just in case y'all also forgot about this one. Just a quick word of advice to the Thor Sport team. I don't run a truck operation or anything like that, or let alone a cup operation, but if y'all are going to do some innovating, don't do it during pre-race tech with stuff like that. They were messing with the valve caps. They had weepers on, and they could have saved it for the race. I mean, I don't know if it would have passed tech afterwards, but if they did win it, that it would be, if you would have had that strategy in your back pocket, save it during the race. Have a set that you had dedicated for that market, whatever. They probably wouldn't have found it out at least that quickly, but no, it is what it is. I just thought that was kind of entertaining. I almost forgot about that stuff myself. What do y'all think of that?
Oh no, they're definitely checking all of Majesti's takeoffs for the rest of the year.
He's under the gun for sure. That whole team's under the gun from now on. They're gonna be watching them.
Yeah, I mean, the way I see it is that wasn't the first time that had been used. How fast he was, in the last half of this season, how fast he was at short tracks. There's no way that was the first time that they tried that. So I think they got cocky. I think they have used it before. Obviously I don't want to say he is in the playoffs because of it. I believe if you're not cheating, you're not trying. But I think that's why it was found during pre-race tech is because they were very cocky. They had used it before and probably didn't think they were going to get caught. Unfortunately, they did.
Okay, and going back to Cup for a little bit. What was a nice surprise for me, and I knew Larson needed it. He needed at least a top 5 last weekend to at least help give himself a bit of a buffer. The part that I forgot was it'd be enough to give him the lead in the points, which he is currently doing. Now it's just a matter of can he hold it, and is it enough for? Well, it's way too early to really decide this, but will it be enough for him to keep going to make it to the championship 4 and maybe even clinch himself a second one? Another nice surprise is Blaney. He's currently 6th in the points at the moment. Hamlin is 3rd. Reddick with the win. He's 2nd. Keselowski, he might still be the big surprise. He's currently leading the Fords right now in the Cup Series points, or at least the driver representing them. Busch might still be full of surprises. Busch sure definitely is full of surprises. And Harvick, it's his last year, his last season more specifically, and he might still surprise us with a W. He almost did last weekend. I think he will next weekend. That's my early prediction. But what I want to propose to you two, because Ross, not only is I love him because it's almost like he is playing Thunder 2004 in real life, especially with some of the moves he makes, which I love. But he was incredibly consistent in the early half, and he hasn't fallen off a whole lot. I think he still puts it together, at least decent enough finishes, sometimes outside the top 10, whenever he doesn't get himself into too much trouble or other people's incidents. Could we still see a surprise or two out of him? I mean, we still got, I think another 7 races till the championship race at Phoenix, which I'll discuss a little bit later on its own right. But what would it take for him to at least be in contention going into the final few races here for Chastain to help close it out? Could this be his year?
So I think he's safe at Bristol, 18 above the cut line right now. I feel like Trackhouse as a whole has kind of lost some speed here the second half of the season. I don't think you can ever count Ross out. Obviously, he showed the world that at Martinsville last year. But I'm not picking him for my championship 4, I don't think. I think for sure he makes it through this weekend at Bristol into the round of 12. And he currently sits 8th, so he would need a pretty decent round there. He's got some strong cars behind him. That'll be pretty desperate to get above that cut line. We're definitely going to need to see the Ross Chastain of last year, and not the Ross Chastain that got chewed out by Mr. Hendrick.
Definitely agree with all that there. Yeah, he just needs to find the Ross that we all know and love and remember. And it wasn't all that long ago. It's not like we're talking about early championship runs from the likes of like Harvick or something. This was just like last year and like the early half of this year. So he still got in him. It's just a reminder, time to remind him. But that makes sense to me. What you reckon, Shawn?
Yeah, I mean that's 100% true. The Ross Chastain we're seeing right now is totally different than the Ross Chastain we saw before he sat down with Justin Marks. Was the conversation necessary? Most likely so. Ross was kind of off the rails, but whatever got said during that sit down has obviously changed the way that he drives. And quite frankly, I kind of miss the old Ross. And I think it's going to be detrimental as far as his playoff run goes. I think one of the reasons why he was in the Final Four last year is because he was driving the way he was. He could put together some pretty consistent finishes here on out, but I don't believe he'll make it to the Final Four unless he reverts back to his style of racing, and that's kind of what I think it is. I think that his style of racing, whether it some people view it as dirty or not, doesn't matter. I think his style of racing was taken from him, and he's paying the price for it.
Yeah, and that's both because of people's, mostly from the garage area's view. All the fans love him for what he's doing, well, except for the people who hate some of the stuff that he's done to their favorite drivers, but hey, not everybody.
Well, I get it. You don't want to tear up race cars. I mean, owners, drivers, they don't want their race cars tore up. But
of course not. Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, you can't. Yeah, you can't leash him and then expect him to run off. It's just how it goes.
Now y'all keep mentioning the Final Four, so I guess we might as well go into a little bit as far as predictions there. I still am not too 100% sure on what mine look like. The only things that I can really say at this juncture is I'm looking at Bell, I'm looking at Bristol, and he's going to surprise us there. Maybe not with a W, but definitely a very strong finish. Likewise, as I mentioned before, Harvick. And probably, if I were to put a third one in there, even the likes of Bush. Now, because I've said this on record, that means I've probably cursed all three of them. That's how these things go. So, knowing my luck, they're probably all going to finish dead laps, multiple laps down. But it is what it is. I'm going with it. Zach, what you reckon it's going to look like for the next few races here going into the Final Four?
I mean, it's going to be exciting. That's what the playoffs are here for, to generate storylines and good racing on the track by getting these guys desperate. I think all three series, we are going to see some people put them on the dash and lay it all out there and try and bring it home. As far as the Cup Series goes, Bristol will be a test. Always is. Are we picking our Final Four here? Is that what we're doing? I'm sorry.
I think we were just kind of
Just
talking
guessing.
into
Just
it.
talking.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we've got the Roval and Talladega in the next round.
I believe that's right. Yeah. Yep.
I'm missing some, drawing a blank here, but the schedule they give us is really just, I mean, it's built for excitement. Anything can happen.
This round we have Bristol, Texas, and Talladega.
Bristol, Texas, and Talladega. So Roval's in the round of 8. So yeah, Bristol, Talladega, and Texas. All three of those tracks are kind of a crapshoot. Texas, with the tire issues that we've had in this car, I'd be interested to see what type of progress has been made there. Bristol, last year, we had power steering pumps blowing out left and right. They have made some changes there, made the rack a little bit bigger, trying to lower the pressures so they don't blow out. Like I said, man, it's the NASCAR playoffs. Anything can happen. Last year we had Christopher Bell drive his ass off in back-to-back elimination races and get in.
I reckon that there has been definitely some improvements as far as Bristol goes. They've actually been trying, but one of the things that I always remember from the last night race that we ran last season, everybody else is pointing the fact out they're running the tire pressure's too high. That's what's blowing them up. We got another thing aside from power steering pumps. They're killing tires. That's how the right front goes. It's like, nah. The car was brand new, and yeah, part of it was the team's fault. Maybe they were overpressuring the right sides, but I honestly believe it's just Goodyear didn't know what the hell they were doing. That's why they made the compound so goddamn hard, and that's what's kind of affecting, the short track aspect of it, and also because there's sequential boxes, especially a place like Martinsville and Wilkesboro, you just downshift, get the car to pivot that way. So
I know Goodyear wants to always be right, but you can't say the tire pressure's too high at Bristol and then say the tire pressure's too low at Texas for the same issue. Tires blowing out.
Exactly. I mean, to quote Tony Stewart, there's a reason why they left the IRL. There's a reason why I left IndyCar. There's a reason why I left the World of Outlaws and Formula One. It's because they can't make a tire worth of crap, and that sucks to see. But at least in giving them some credit, if I don't mind playing devil's advocate for a second, I think on the whole, they're pretty much there this time around, which is a shocker because they've been miles off for quite a while now. Be it the Gen 5 era, hell, some of the Gen 4 era. Gen 5s, 6, definitely some issues there. But they're finally, with this new Cup car, they've kind of come around on it. And the big test is going to be Bristol. If they can put a tire together there, okay, going into Texas, we can all breathe, well, more importantly, the teams and the drivers can breathe a sigh of relief, knowing that it's not Goodyear's fault this time. It might be something they over-adjusted. So that at least takes some of the guesswork out of what to expect from there. Shawn, any other closing thoughts as far as that package is concerned for Bristol?
No, I actually think Bristol's going to be very exciting. As far as the tire goes, I really don't know. I believe that a lot of it was on the teams last year. I do agree with you that Goodyear obviously had some work to do, but I think with this new car, we've been seeing a ton of improvement all the way around. this year. I mean, just think about how many loose wheels we had last year compared to this year. Just little things like that. I know it's not obviously comparable to a tire, but just this car is improving, tenfold in just a matter of a year. So I believe the tire will be better here. I believe the tire will be better at Texas. I believe the tire will be better basically everywhere moving forward. But it's obviously not perfect. Now, as far as Bristol actually goes, it's going to be very interesting. Busher won this race last year. Bell has the opportunity to run very well here. Bush does, Harvick does. I mean, a lot of these guys have the opportunity to run very, very well here. It is extremely difficult to pick a winner. Will Bell's pit crew be able to, get him up there without making mistakes? Will Harvick be able to make the drive? Just it's gonna be super interesting. I'm excited. If you had made me pick a winner, I don't even know if I could. So
Well, that's the thing, and I'm glad you pointed that part out because a lot of the racing is going to be on pit road, and the two teams that can really put it together as far as the best pit crews that there are, it's going to be Gibbs and it's going to be Trackhouse. Those are the two that always seem to be the ones that put it together best. Some weeks it's Trackhouse, more often than not it is, and then the remainder is Gibbs. So with the likes of Bell being damn good at places like this, that's going to be a factor in its own right. And would that be enough to help close it out? Right? And that's what's going to make it interesting to watch because it literally could be anybody's race this weekend. And what's also going to make it interesting is, as far as I last read, I don't know if they're going to renege this or whatever, they're going to an intermediate track aero package for this one, which kind of surprised me. I thought they were going to go for a short oval one because I think that's what they did at Gateway as well. Even the track being where it is, they still went for basically like a Martinsville-esque aero setup, which generally surprised me. I don't know what y'all two thoughts on that are, but to me, I don't know if that's really the move. The main issue is, especially with how aero dependent these cars are, on a track like that, and short tracks does matter. That's going to surprise a lot of people, but believe it or not, it does matter. Ask some of the Cars Tour guys, even. They're driving late models, and they will tell you, yep, dirty air, messing me this way. Clean air does the. It is a factor on short tracks, and it will be a factor, no doubt, at places like Bristol. So, what you reckon there, Zach?
Yeah, only thing I have to wonder is, did they go to the intermediate package to avoid bringing rain tires and having to run this race if it starts raining? You go to the intermediate package, you only bring slicks, and if it sprinkles, you red flag it.
That could be
I don't think Bristol is expecting any weather this weekend.
Well, that's completely on me. I didn't do my research there, but that was a thought I had when I read it today.
Well, weather is weather. I mean, it could be totally different tomorrow, but I did check beforehand, and I don't think Bristol's expecting any wet weather until Sunday.
Well, hopefully it stays that way. Like I said, it was just a thought that I had when I read it today. Was, I wouldn't want to run on the banks of Bristol when it was wet. I've walked on that track, and it's steep and slick.
I get the feeling that NASCAR knows that this car isn't producing the best short track racing, but they don't exactly know how to fix it. I mean, I think they know how to fix it. I think that the solution is not feasible at the moment, and obviously more horsepower, less braking, things like that. Less shifting. Those are the way to fix it. But it's not feasible at the moment, and I feel like NASCAR just really doesn't know how to fix it. So they're throwing the kitchen sink at it, hoping that it'll produce a good race. I don't, I understand, but it will be interesting.
And that's one of the things that I'll be, especially being the stat slash engineering nerd that I can be about these things. That's one of the things I will be paying close attention to is what the hell is this going to create? Because this will set a precedent for the races at Bristol, especially the night races going forward. Like, is this going to work? Is this not going to work? And right now, I'm skeptical. I'm cautiously optimistic that at least 90% of the things they've worked out on it will offset that. But like you said, they're just trying everything they can right now. I mean, hell, maybe one of the only other ways they can get around it is, if they aren't already, mandating certain like final drive ratios to basically help ensure that they don't stay popping out of fifth gear and downshift to help it pivot more, whatever it is, right? Allow it for places like Pocono, but not there, or definitely road courses, of course. So I don't know, but they've been told time and time again by drivers what the fixes should be, and the answer generally is make it more like the Bush car, or sorry, the I'm an old head. Xfinity car. I would call it a Bush car today. I've actually been pretty good about calling the Xfinity car this time around. Generally, I'm not. But anyway, the Xfinity car, and work with that, especially it's the packages we've seen. We saw, again, going back to Kansas, going back to as far as Darlington, the races that we saw with the Xfinity car all season have just been fantastic for one reason or another. And if they can try to somehow have their cake and eat it too, which they're getting there, this Cup car, not only with its how innovative it is and the things that because I do like it an awful lot. I like the idea of basically a V8 supercar with an American camouflage on it, turning left and doing its damnedest to. Well, I say it's doing its damnedest. It's not trying that hard to do well on road courses. It's probably the best road course car there is. It is basically a cross between that, a Trans Am car from recent years, and a stock car from recent years. We took it to Le Mans and proved it could do well there, and we even I think it did end up beating one of the prototype cars there. Granted, it was a van wall, but there it is, and showed all those GT3 cars what's up. But anyway, I digress. Let's see, where can we move on to here? We've had, on Twitter at least, from some of the things that I've seen, a very entertaining thing has happened, which some of the investigative work that people have done to try and figure out who the surprise entry is for the 31. Beautiful paint scheme, by the way, they got for it. Is astonishing. I think that if they haven't considered it already, I don't know who the hell these people are. Some of them are known people, quote unquote, and like reporters and so on. Give your applications to the CIA or your own 3-letter authority in your nation, because y'all are doing better work than they do, trying to do stuff for Homeland Security. Seriously, you are rivaling the work they do, trying to figure out whose arm it is that's shaking the hand of the team owner, just to figure who the hell it is. Y'all been seeing that too, right? What's y'all thoughts on that?
No, so just real quick, it is the announcement is for who will have that ride full time next year.
Oh, my bad.
And it has been an insane day on NASCAR Twitter, seeing everybody screenshot drivers' arms and trying to figure it out. I've obviously looked at the pictures. I'm under the impression that it'll be Hemrick in the 31 next year. Not the flashiest pick. I'm not sure why Chris Rice would have said that would surprise everyone, seeing as he's already a colleague driver. That's who I think it is. Not who my heart wants it to be, obviously, but if it is, congrats to Hemrick getting back to the Cup Series.
Well, I mean, to be honest with you, Hemrick makes a lot of sense. Not shocking the racing world, like Chris Rice said, and honestly, probably not a lot of sense as far as the capability of winning. I mean, he hasn't won in, I think, 50-something races. I mean, he is a champion in the Xfinity Series, so he has that going for him. But yeah, I would be very surprised if it was anyone other than Hemrick, because it does make a lot of sense. When this first got brought up, I thought Chandler Smith probably would have been a better pick than Hemrick. But obviously, if we're going by the arm, it is not Chandler Smith. I've heard some names thrown around, Matty D. That would be pretty cool. He had a good year in the truck this year.
It'd be genuinely surprising. That would shock the world.
Exactly.
If that's what Chris Rice is trying to tell us.
That would be more shocking than Daniel Hemrick, honestly. I mean, Chris Rice he's an entertainer. He's a marketer. I mean, he knows how to get people's attention, but he has to know that Daniel Hemrick would not shock really anyone, except for the fact that people would be like, wow, okay, he probably going to run in the back for you guys. But yeah, either way, I'm excited. you know, they were talking about Noah, which would be super cool, just being a Noah fan. But
I really hope for that too.
I just don't see that. I don't see that coming. Yeah, I would imagine Chandler Smith or Danner Hemrick, and if we go by the arm itself, it definitely looks like Hemrick. So
Yeah, because before that was even going to be announced, because I know there was rumors beforehand. Oh, there's going to be a surprise. Chris Rice said there's going to be a surprise. Like, who the hell is it? And like, what car is it for? It's like, it's for 31. There's an opening. And people were telling me this, that, the other thing. I'm like, what do you think it is? Pat, who do you think it is? I go, I have no idea. And I'm just like, Brody, maybe? I don't know. And they're like, what the hell are you talking about? It's like, y'all saw him in Indianapolis? I don't know. I'm trying to throw a name out. I couldn't even think anyone at the time, because there wasn't any news yet about Noah being reinstated. I knew it was going to, which is a surprise in its own right. Speaking of surprises, that's a very nice one.
yeah,
Because I knew he was going to
we
get
can touch
reinstated.
back on that later.
Yeah, we'll get back to that. Well, just quickly, that was a surprise in its own right. I was like, I don't know, maybe him. But then I remembered, oh yeah, right. And people in the comments are probably going to be jumping to it, like, you idiot. He has a V8 Supercars contract. He's not coming to America anytime soon. He's got to hash that out first. So I don't know. That's the only person.
Well, what made, to be honest with you, it made all this so confusing and mysterious for me is the fact that Chris Rice said it would shock the motorsports world in some way. I don't exactly know how he worded it. I could be, completely butchering his quote, but I remember seeing it and I took from it that it would be a big deal, that it would be surprising. And I'll tell you what, if it's Hemrick, he was way off base. So yeah, that's the whole thing that's confusing to me is the fact that he played it up that way, and if it is Hemrick, then it will not be shocking in the least to me.
No, not particularly. But as you said, he is a marketer, and if there's one thing I know about those types of folks is exaggeration is their business. And
True, can't fault him for it.
No, that's just you can't get mad at him for it. That's just what he does. I don't necessarily agree with it, but that's just what he does to put food on the table. Before I move on to other surprise announcements, there was rumors, I think today or just the other day, that BJ McLeod's operation was thinking about, or there was a possibility that they might be putting their charter up to market. I don't know if either of you two have heard about this, but what you reckon? Because if they're going to be doing that, I think there's another Cup Series owner that should be looking to doing that as well. They shouldn't be the only ones, but would that be something you could see them doing, putting that up to market? How about you, Zach?
I could definitely see them testing the waters with the value of the charters going up as much as it has, and NASCAR having the right to revoke a charter if you finish in the bottom, I think it's 3 spots in points multiple years in a row, which the 78 car has done. I like BJ. It's fun to root for the underdog, but that car has not performed.
I agree with that, and I guess it's going to be much the same sentiment for you there, Shawn.
Yeah, pretty much. I mean, yeah, I could see him selling it. I could see him holding on to it. You know, I think if he does sell it, you know, I don't even know who would be interested in it.
Because Junior's not going to buy it anytime soon. He doesn't. He says he doesn't want to buy it because it's cheap about it.
No,
So.
I think they're overpriced at the moment. I figured a lot of people that were not in it already were going to hold off until the TV deal was done. So I think if someone does buy it, it'll be someone who already owns a team to buy an additional one. Yeah, it's difficult to be an owner driver. There's really, yeah, if he does, I won't be surprised. If he doesn't, I won't be surprised either. So yeah, that's pretty much where I stand on it.
It is pretty cool to see an owner driver even this day and age, because I honestly would not, especially with the next gen era, expect that to be a thing. We saw a little bit with the car tomorrow. We saw it with the likes of folks like Robbie Gordon and all that, but those days are unfortunately mostly dead and buried. It's just the way these things are and cost, and especially with the charter system being what it is. It's only going to go up every time they sell one. It goes up, so we're not going to see an Alan Kulwicki type situation, I don't think, anytime soon, if ever. certainly not for championship level. Even with the parity that these cars provide, I'd be very surprised if any of those types of operations come anywhere close to top 10, let alone top 5. But I want to
Yeah,
propose.
and
Sorry, go on first.
no, I was gonna say, yeah, you're 100% right. And to be honest with you, there's a lot of drivers coming in from, different series, whether it's trucks or Xfinity, that have the potential to be Cup drivers that just don't have rides. They don't have spots. This charter is valuable in that scenario as far as a development driver goes. So if if it does get sold, I would see it moving to to an open spot for a driver like that.
Now, speaking of open spots, we understand that the back and forths and ups and downs that the likes of the 51 has been going through. Is it seriously time for them to consider maybe that selling that charter off? I know Rick Ware's got business everywhere else, and it's been wishy washy with the 51. There hasn't been any rumors as far as him selling it off. But when I first heard the news about, uh, you know, that one being sold off, and I immediately just thought about Rick Ware. So what do you think, Zach? Is that something that he should consider doing, or just tough it out, make do whatever he can with it?
I think before we saw that charter hit the market, obviously they just signed Justin Haley. One of the things that got him to sign, he said, was their alliance with RFK. So I think before we saw that charter hit the market, we would see RFK prepare it and use it as a third entry, kind of how RCR did with the 78 last weekend at Kansas and Sheldon Creed. Just with the TV deal coming up and the way charters are, I could see something like that happening. I don't think Rick Ware sells. He's in motorsports and a lot of different series. Unless his hand is forced, I just really don't think he's gonna sell them or try and sell them.
Shawn, what you make of that?
No, I mean he's 100% right. If there's an alliance coming with RFK down the road, then there's absolutely no reason to sell. RFK is doing some serious work at the moment, and if you can align with them in any way, shape, or form, definitely do it. If he was in BJ McLeod's position, then I would say, yeah, most likely coming down the line. But he's got Justin Haley coming, who has a ton of promise. Um, if anything, that future looks up for that, for that whole race team.
Yeah, fair enough. I wasn't sure what to make of it myself when I first read it. Speaking of something that I wasn't sure what the hell to make, heads or tails was when I first read about. It's a little bit ahead as far as the schedule goes, but we are going to the Roval, the Charlotte Roval again, not too soon, and they are going to be bringing back two things that surprised me. Well, first thing, not so much, because the restart zone is the chicane usually there, though I reckon they could still afford to move it back some. But stage breaks, and therefore stage restarts. Like, when I first read that, I go, this is insane. Like, this cannot be a good idea. I understand it's the playoff segment of the season. I understand that they want to drum up more entertainment. I understand that side of it. But we have proven categorically, in my mind, you can feel free to disagree, but in my mind, it's proven to me that it doesn't have a place on road courses anymore. Well, it didn't really to begin with, but it's proven that's not necessary. Let it be, let it flow naturally through pit strategy and what happens on track and whatever else. Let the cautions be actually necessary to facilitate the need to throw the yellow in the first place, as opposed to go, we're going to throw a stage break now to stop the race at a certain point so we can demonstrate how great the Gibbs and Trackhouse pit crews are, and so we can throw in a bunch of Toyota commercials about getting corner seats for other people that are watching the race. I don't want that no more. And I think the general outlook from other people is much the same. But I want to hear y'all thoughts on this, because I don't think we really ever discussed it. I think we're going to save it for this. But Zach, with you, let's start with you. What do you reckon on this? Is this a terrible idea? Is it a good idea, or somewhere in the middle?
I think it's a terrible idea. I miss oval races without manufactured restarts through stage breaks, to be honest. I've really enjoyed the road course races this season without stage. Well, we still have stages, we just don't have stage breaks. And the way they play out has a more old school feel. You, to me, the guys there at the end, you really feel like they earned it top to bottom. You know, you have to have your strategy right and go out there and perform. So I guess that part doesn't change with stage breaks. There's still strategy involved. But personally, for me, I don't need it. Um, but, you know, we're going to see some crashes. So it's good for TV, I reckon.
Yeah, fair enough. And that's the part of it that a lot of people are gonna bring up, and that's, well, it's for the entertainment value. That's why they're doing this. And again, I get that side of it, but we proved that the based on viewership statistics and everything else, and especially with the upset winner that we saw at the Indy road course, which that's an argument of itself. I think we should go back to the oval. Though I think the RC is not that bad. It is time for them to reconsider while they still have time to renege that, because I don't think it's the move. Shawn, what you reckon?
This is an extremely tough subject to give an opinion on because I am so torn. I do believe I'm going to disagree with you guys. I think that if you do not have stage breaks with cautions thrown at road courses in NASCAR, I believe that you have all 38 or whatever drivers on the same pit strategy. um, with the manufactured cautions, you at least have some drivers who are willing to stay out for stage points, who are willing to stay out, get track position, things like that. If you don't have that, then every single car in the field is on the same pit strategy. Um, we did see some good racing without stages, but stretched out, it was the typical road course race. Obviously, no passing, um, which is the reason why I'm torn because I love the purest form of racing, which is go from the green flag to the checkered flag. And if you have a better car, so be it. You deserve to win. But as far as entertainment factor goes, I really believe that the stage cautions will at least up the entertainment factor. And I'm not a huge fan of the wrecks that you get from it. People diving into the first corner, which is why I believe that the restart zone is a really good idea. NASCAR wants the beating and banging, but I don't think they want the embarrassment that they had at Coda. So I think that's one of the reasons why the restart zone being moved is a good idea. Yeah, I think I'm gonna have to disagree with you guys. Like I said, I'm extremely torn, but just from an entertainment standpoint, I want to see some different strategy. I want to see some guys stay out for some points. I think it'll make the racing a little bit more exciting.
And I think that's fair, and I'm glad you touched on that because I mean, we this is the iRacing equivalent of it, but we have seen for us three what stages create both on ovals and road courses respectively. What happened with us at the Glen, for instance, that was huge, and that would have created a race that we wouldn't have had otherwise. So there is a precedent for it. But and I can see why you're torn on it. Like for me, it's like okay, I look at it from that perspective of like as the driver, granted, virtual experience, but for me, I don't know. It does change the sequence of strategy for the pit side of things, and I think that was one of the things that it helps highlight is what it brings to people on pit road. But I think that can equally be demonstrated, though to a lesser extent, perhaps, without them. But the
Well,
one,
yeah, with the fact that you basically have zero natural cautions on a road course, just due to the fact that you, I mean, you know how it works. You very rarely have natural cautions on a road
definitely,
course.
definitely,
You really don't have the opportunity to have a different strategy than the other drivers. Um, it's rare, it happens, but for the most part, You guys are all on, every car's on the same strategy, and that's the only thing I would like to avoid. And I think that the stage cautions provide that opportunity, whether we like them or not, whether we believe they're a gimmick or not. They absolutely provide the opportunity for people to alter their pit strategies.
And that's fair enough, but I think that the thing that us three can all agree on is move the restart zone back a bit. You know what I mean? That shouldn't be the chicane. That's how bad shit starts to happen. Excuse my French again. Like that's what causes it. And it's going to be especially bad during stages, let alone if it was like hell. Let's say that they reneged it and said, "No, we're actually not going to do stage breaks." Well, there's going to be accidents someplace, and they're going to have to restart there. And as Mike Joy says, well, cautions breed cautions. So that's what's going to keep happening. But we'll see what happens as far as that goes as well. But I'd like to quickly reiterate post that a certain winner recently from a certain team and a certain 34 car said recently on Twitter, and as of recently, I mean this morning, quote, "Some like it because it gives them an opportunity to make something happen on a restart, like stuffing at 5 wide, bumper car style. It also erases the time gap lost on track due to lack of actual speed. It gives the guys who can't run up front all day a shot at it. Indoor karting is entertaining too, but entertainment is subjective. So I am good if the fans want it, but is this what the fans really want?" And that's by Michael McDowell in reference to what Joey was saying about it, saying that he was happy about the stage break cautions returning for the Roval, with him saying, "I think it's a no-brainer. I wasn't a fan when they took them away in the first place." And I find it kind of a funny dynamic between them two because I don't know if you two remember, but when they did run at the Indy Road Course, Joey, once again, was Joey and junked Stenhouse for just about damn near last place. So yeah, especially just after the going to I think it was turn 1 where that happened. It's like, Jesus, you couldn't have hold your own for just a little bit longer. But maybe
Well, what I gather from both of those perspectives is you have someone who is a road course ringer. Yeah, I'd go as far as say a road course master in McDowell. That guy's, I mean, obviously he proved it this year, but he's always up front in road courses. I mean, he's fantastic. And then you have someone who struggles at road courses. You have someone who wants that opportunity to have the chance to run back up to the front. So you have two perspectives there, and I believe they're both deserving. If you do have stages, then who's to say Logano can't struggle all day and then have a second opportunity to make his way up to the front. As long as he does it, a certain way. If he plows his way into the front, that's a different story. But yeah, you have two different perspectives. You have a road course purist, and you have a person who struggles at them who would like a second chance. And I believe that the fans would most likely want the entertainment, and that entertainment would probably be someone who struggles that would like a second chance. You know, we don't want to see chaos like we saw at Coda, but we do want to see, we want to see racing. We don't want to see it stretched out and the ringer win. We want to see, somebody win it by chance.
And I agree from that perspective. At least we don't want the road course runner to come in and sweep it away. Um, we've seen that before, especially in the Gen 4 era that all of us love so much. You got your Boris Seds and so on, and even Ambrose, and that come from Australia, and Canucks even. We got Ron Fellows who put together some wins, and at least one in the Cup Series, I believe, a handful in maybe just one or two in Busch, and one in trucks as well, through the 90s and into the 2000s respectively. Just some dude from Ontario from across the border is coming into America, just putting together the Glen, and I think one at Sonoma. I could be wrong on that. So there is precedent for that as well. But you mentioned Ambrose. There is an announcement that I don't think any of us are going to be surprised by. This is proof positive of a way that Trackhouse's Project 91 works. And just to reiterate for, I guess, the folks at home, because a lot of this actually got missed when Justin Marks was originally proposing it and talking about it. It wasn't just a show and tell of like, oh, Jensen Button's come around to America, whoop-de-doo, take a look at what he can do at Coda. I mean, that was part of it, but the big part of it was, hey, we're going to create a program that no other team has done especially not in recent years, where we're going to have a guy who has never done this kind of thing before. Maybe he's done something similar to it, and put him in our car for one weekend. Usually it's a road course, as we've seen, again, COTA, and so on and so forth. But we're going to see how they do tackling on this 3,400-pound car with, well, now it's got a little bit more grip than it did before. It's not, again, mention the Gen 4 again. Excuse me. It's not quite the same analog as it once was, but it's still its own beast. It's its own type of racing. They're going to take on this, and they're going to jump from, if it's an Indy car, or in Jensen Button's case, a Formula One car, and go into this brick and see how they do. And we have the team, the resources, and the people to help at least facilitate our side of the bargain, to help at least land them a decent place finish, if not win outright. And they've come close a few times, and generally it's been just a show and tell, and that's the way a lot of people have looked at this, as just a show and tell of who's who from whatever motorsport, from whatever part of the world. Most times Formula One. But they found someone in Shawn Van Gisbergen, which nobody on the commentary booth can say. Nobody can get his name right. SVG.
You can't either, Pat.
Yeah.
It's Shane.
Shane Van Gisbergen. Okay, so I messed
We'll
up
just
there.
do SVG.
But we'll go with SVG from now on.
I can say it. I'm saying it.
You say it, then. All right, I'll go with you saying whenever I mention you. Okay, or just whenever. But it's not surprising given the fact that he won his first race, which is very cool. His first debut race in a Cup car.
First time in 60 years.
Yeah, not since since 1963 specifically, when Johnny Rutherford won in a Cup car of IndyCar fame. Did anyone even come close to accomplishing that? He won his first Cup race and his first start at the inaugural race at Chicago Street Circuit, which is also Chicago.
I think he also had back-to-back top 10s, which hasn't happened since the 70s.
That's true. I'm glad you pointed that out. Back-to-back top 10s as well, which is phenomenal. This guy's great in almost everything he's driven before. He's driven sprint cars before, so he's not entirely out of the loop as far as oval's concerned. Sprint cars, wing sprints especially, I believe, are the hardest types of vehicles to drive as it is. So if you can do well in them, you can put it together in a Cup car with some adjustments. So that's a huge bonus. Of course, he's of V8 Supercars fame. He's done incredibly well there. And people have mentioned the similarities between this car and the V8 Supercars car, and so he was a perfect fit. And for a lot of people, especially from Australia and New Zealand, when they were also tuning in to watch him race at Chicago, they're like, yeah, he didn't qualify the best, he didn't get on pole or whatever, but like he's done this 1,000 times. So a lot of people also don't know this. SVG is notorious for qualifying like awfully. Of course, there's been other drivers who qualified awfully in the Cup Series as well. Earnhardt famously, especially towards the latter half of his career, qualified dog last almost all the time, but damn near or mid-pack. And
he would skip qualifying and have someone else in the car in the late 90s.
Definitely, and that's what he would tell people all the time. Is like, I don't want to do this none. For those of us who are curious, for one great example that comes to mind was, I think it was with Harvick when he was helping out RCR with their with pressing for the Brickyard, I think it was, and they were all the reporters were coming in when it was Earnhardt's turn to drive the car. It's like, oh, how do you feel about such and such driving your car for you and setting up a certain way and putting a better time? It's like, damn it. I forget the exact quote, but basically it was something to the effect of, if I had it my way, I don't qualify at all. I would never be anywhere near the goddamn car. I would just have somebody else put it on pole for me, if that's what it came to, and I just run to the end. Well, SVG is similar to that, where he never starts well. Not all the time, but he'll still win. He'll come out of nowhere and still put a W out of his rear end. And everybody's kind of like, huh? And of course, it's one of those things where you see the trick once, you see it 1,000 times, it's no longer a surprise to you. Well, they surprised us. SVG sure surprised us. We know I sure as hell didn't know much about him before he ever showed up to the grid that day, and I did not know that he had that kind of magic in his hat. And sure enough, everybody else, except all the fans, all NASCAR fans watching, were like, "Oh, here he goes again. He's gonna win again." Everybody else watching, it's like he might not do it, Could be, who else it might be? It might be Chase Elliott. Watch him go. He might get a win here inaugural race. How about that? But it didn't happen, and sure enough, he did. And so, to go back to my main point, it's no big surprise that Marks was like, "Hey, dude, how about this one? You're free of your contract over in Australia, and or this whole V8 supercars deal. How about this? And also, I'm sorry, I'm getting a little bit ahead of myself because he was also around, as you mentioned, doing other races in the meantime, putting together successful top tens at places like, of course, the Indy road course, and he didn't actually do too bad at the at IRP either in the trucks. He was a little bit out of his depth, but forgive him.
19th,
yeah,
19th on an oval,
and it's his first time in that truck, like properly in a race. I know he's practiced beforehand, but and given that's his first outing, I'll give it to him. That's not too bad, given his experience level and everything else. And keep in mind, like he wasn't. It wasn't like when Robbie Gordon was like starting out with like his full-time rides and just beating the shit out of everybody. He was actually letting people go when their turn came. It's like, oh, I kind of know what you guys are like. I don't want to wreck the car early and piss my car owner off or myself off. I kind of want to see this through to the end and see where I finish, and not just call it quits now. And sure enough, that landed 19th while all the testosterone up, former late model or modified kids or whatever, driving trucks around, just casually pass this some dude from Australia on the inside line, right? So I'll give it to him there. But with that, they got a little bit more experience, but he's like, listen, SVG, because I can't get your name right, but I bet you Justin Marks could. How about this? We're gonna get you in a ride, and it's gonna be the 91, big surprise, next year full time, and cigar award to SVG for doing what he did, and it's to him, it's probably just another day in the park. That's the way he made it sound in all the post-race interviews. Everybody was shouting on top of their lungs for his W that day. But to him, it's like, yeah, I've done this 1,000 times before. I mean, it's, if it wasn't going to be a win, it's going to be third. Well, that's not what he said. But that's basically what I got out of his responses. But Zach, I've been ramping for far too long. What you reckon of that? It wasn't a big surprise, was it?
I mean, I was surprised. I didn't go into the Chicago street race with very many expectations, but SVG winning in his debut was not. I'm sorry, Shane Van Gisbergen. I can say it, so I will.
Show off. I'll go.
It was not on my list of things I expected to see at all, but hell of a wheel man. Seems like anything he gets in, he's fast. I'm excited to watch the future. He's older, so he doesn't have a lot of time like some of these guys, but he's signed to a top tier team. So, I expect a lot out of him these next coming years as he tries to establish himself over here on this side of the pond.
I agree, and I'm honestly, I'm over the moon for him, and I should just be more specific. For me too, it was a surprise that he got the W. I knew it was gonna, like, especially toward the end, like, shit, he might. I don't know if he's gonna win this, but it's gonna be awesome.
I thought Haley might put the bumper to him and get him a spot in the playoffs there. Introduce him to, how we race over here, but he didn't. I was kind of surprised by that.
That was a surprise too, which would have been a hell of an intro. This is for maybe NASCAR fans a little bit more obscure, but I'm a nerd when it comes to all kinds of motorsports things. But over in the other side of the pond, not as far as Australia, but in the UK, they have basically a NASCAR equivalent of their own, especially more so in like yesteryear in like the 90s with the British Touring Car Championship. And they had a similar situation with Formula One guys coming in to race basically their equivalent of NASCAR. One of those guys was just, the one and only Nigel Mansell, I think it was 93 F1 champion. And they had a guy in the series, his name was John Cleland. And he was basically, like, to put him into perspective for y'all, he was the British Intimidator, basically. Especially the way he carried himself and the way he drove and all this. And so when they did their first race, I think it was like Darlington Park or whatever. I don't know my British circuits that well. I'm I'm a dumb idiot. I know the sport pretty good, but I get the names all wrong. I can't run a road course for anything on virtually or probably in real life. Uh, I'll stick to doing the funny circle. Thank you very much. But he he made sure to introduce Nigel Mansell to the way they tend to drive, which is not unlike NASCAR, which is dooring the absolute hell out of each other to Kingdom Come. And Nigel came over to him at the end of their first stint or whatever it was, because they do sprint races, right? They don't really do pit stops or nothing. He goes, "Oh, what the hell do you think you were doing? You're trying to kill me?" It's all this like, nah, I figured I'd give you all a little bit of an introduction to how things are going to go through the rest of the day. That was my way of saying hello to you. So I think your expectation, at least, was a lot like mine. We're like, oh, if not Haley, it was going to be somebody else that was going to give him the introduction. But SVG's a really stand-up guy, and it would have sucked if that was the way he lost the race, which thankfully he didn't. But at the same time, it would have been like, hey, that's just how they do things here. I wouldn't be surprised. And to be honest, as far as their side of the world's concerned and their driving, we've seen some similar antics in the world of V8 supercars too. So it's not something that he's not used to. And it's happened to him a few times, and he's done it to a few people a few times. Hell, he did it to somebody, granted unintentionally. I want to make that clear. I know there's going to be some people that disagree with me, but I was watching his onboard when he ran the Indy Road Course, and I forget who he took out coming into T1, but he definitely took someone out coming into turn 1 and didn't lift. So
I think it was Ty Gibbs, actually.
Was it Gibbs?
I remember being happy.
Oh well, I would be too. I got quite a lot of thoughts about Gibbs, and well, I'll lay it on the line now. That bastard got it coming, and that's what karma does. So that's kind of cathartic. I completely forgot it was Gibbs. But
yeah, he gave him the one finger salute after the race, if I remember right.
Oh well, I'm sure God wouldn't appreciate that too much now, Gibbs, wouldn't it? No, I thought it was something they had to do turn the other cheek. Now, for Christ's sake. Anyway, Shawn, what you reckon about this whole SVG announcement? It was probably a surprise for the W, but how about the rest of it?
Yeah, no, I mean, like Zach said, he's a wheel man. This guy can obviously drive. One thing I'll disagree with on Zach is his age. I kind of feel like he's in his prime at 34 years old. Yeah, I think it's a perfect opportunity for him to come over with the history he has, and this car being as close to the supercars that he's used to. I think this is the best opportunity he could have had. So I'm super excited for it. I think it's going to be really cool. Don't think he's going to be just a road course menace, or street course, whatever. I think that his ability to outbrake these guys is really going to shine on some of these short tracks. I don't think this is talked about enough. Whether it's whether it's how he drives, how he brakes, how he uses the throttle.
There's a lot of similarities. There's tons of crossover. You're absolutely right.
Yeah, but this guy his competitive advantage is in the braking zone. And this car may not be the best for that, but there's going to be tracks where the braking zone is going to play a massive part, in the racing. And I'm super, super excited to see how he can do at tracks like that. So yeah, I'm all for it. I'm all in. I think this guy's going to have a really good run. I think he's going to come in and perform way better than anyone that has tried to do something similar to this in the past. 2 reasons. I think the guy's an insane wheelman, and I also think this car is extremely close to what he's used to. So he's got both of those going for him. I'm excited for it.
I love him. He's kind of I'm a Larson lifer, so he's gonna be the man I'm looking forward to most, even going into next year. But SVG, he's my underdog pick. I wanted to root for somebody like that for quite a while. Being as jaded as I am, he's brought all new life to me in the sport, and it's just great to see. I have nothing but love for the guy, and this is only the beginning of something great. It's the only way is up for him, and I'm glad you touched on that. I didn't even think about it at first either, but yeah, there is crossover between doing well especially since the cars are so similar. I mean, V8 supercars don't have ABS. They weigh about the same as a cup car does and everything else, and the way you have to approach corners on a road course with trail braking and stuff like that, Hell, us three know short track better than anybody else I know of. So we know the similarities. I mean, granted, we say that, and all of us are shaded road courses, but the way you approach a turn is the same thing. The only difference is you turn left after your trail brakes on. So it's like, okay, I'm going into this turn now. I gotta adjust for this, and it's gonna be a little bit loose on entry, whatever else. The only difference is, which is out of his control, is the way the cars are set up, right? So whoever's his crew chief that day is gonna tell him like what you want for this and that, how much you want to back up for the corner and all this. But after that, it's just him being the wheelman as he is. As we keep saying, time and time again, it's just true, time and time again.
Yeah, and obviously he's shown that he can perform at road courses. Obviously outside the street course. I mean, he had a top 10 at Indy in his second start. I mean, yeah, he's obviously proved he can perform there. I believe he can do the same thing at short tracks, just simply because of the braking zone. The only area I have concern for is drafting tracks or intermediate tracks. Anywhere that he doesn't have that braking zone to his advantage, he doesn't have that right turn to his advantage. I mean, he's going to have to learn that very quickly. But the guy's a wheelman. I think he will. I think once he understands the aero on this car and how it runs inside of a pack or in dirty air, yeah, I think he'll get it.
I agree to some extent. The one thing I will disagree on is as far as like drafting tracks. The thing is it's a big leap restrictor plate racing for anybody. It's its own unique type of thing. There's no real allegory to it. But I am genuinely of the belief that if you can do well on a short track, and this has been proven, time and time again. And next up is SVG to figure this out. But I mean, given that I am the unofficial president of his fan club, big surprise, I'm going to mention him at least once today. Jimmy Spencer, he come up from short tracks, dirt late models to modifieds, 2-time, almost 3-time modified champ. And the only 2 wins he got in the Cup Series, bless him, because he was doing it with garbage equipment until he went to juniors, was on plate races. Now, of course, there might have been some chicanery because of junior car, but he worked for it, man. And he knew in the whole time he was racing, hey, this is, you got to learn how to drive in claustrophobia. And being patient and making it work and stick and working with other people. And that's what you do on a short track, too. We mentioned that aero is somewhat important there, obviously not to the same extent as it is on a plate track. I'll grant you that much. But if he can stick it to him, give him what he's learned from IRP, because he has taken a lot from it. Going forward to, I don't know, let's just throw a track name out there. Something like New Smyrna, even. Hell, it'd do him so good to probably do some late model practice. I'm sure Justin Rush would happily hand the keys to something, or somebody will. Get him used to that, and we'll see something similar to what Travis Pastrana was able to do when he ran the 500 this year. So I wouldn't rule him out of it just yet. Again, you're right, it's a huge adjustment. He'll basically have to do his own rookie test, and he'll have to just accept the fact that he might just get junked down in lap 10 because Joey Logano decided to push someone in the corner again. But aside from that, I think he can hold his own. I do genuinely believe that. But of course, that is something for the future, and I'll be definitely paying very close attention going forward how that all goes. And like I said, the only way is up. I mentioned the 500. I wanted to mention somebody which has been seeing a lot of inconsistency, and I think y'all can probably see where I'm going with this, and that is Ricky Stenhouse has had an upset victory in the 500, and he will forever be a 500 champion. Good for him. Even the cops passing by my window seem to agree that's pretty cool what he's able to do. But he has not had the best of seasons. He's done better than last year. I'll grant you that much. But I don't think he's had the performance that he ought to have done this year. We've seen time and time again that there's this certain effect that happens in your season where it seems like all your eggs fall into the 500 basket, intentionally or not. It's just the way the luck of the draw goes, in my opinion. That you do well in the 500, or indeed win the 500, and you kind of languish through the rest of the year. There's, so that's maybe what he's going through again this time around, and I'm curious to see. I know, Zach, you've got an opinion on this. Am I off base on this, or is there just something else I don't see?
No, I don't think you're totally off base. Ricky's done good. in the equipment he's in. JTG has looked better at times this year, but we've seen Ricky in a Roush car for what, a decade. We know who Ricky is, and I'm glad he got the 500, but it's an outlier, you know.
Yeah, and it's not like he can't be a wheelman. Like, you don't win 2 Busch Series championships by accident, and he didn't luck into winning the 500 either. And I know that JTG isn't a number one organization. They're, but I reckon there should be a little bit more that he should be able to stretch out of it. You mentioned his time with Roush. That was arguably, even though it wasn't its best years, better equipment than this stuff is. But I don't know. There's something missing.
That's an arguable point. Those were some down Roush years. So did we see Ricky in the best equipment? Probably not. But we did see him in some consistent situations, and just personally, like you said, Busch Series champion. I expected more.
Yeah, I mean, well, he has been a Busch Series champion. He's been in good equipment, bad equipment throughout his career, but he has a few nicknames. I don't know if I even have to say them. You don't earn those nicknames for no reason. So, yeah, I mean, you could be in slow equipment, good equipment, but if you're wrecking cars, if you're making stupid decisions, if you're being
Yeah, I wasn't going to bring up the nicknames, but that's kind of what I meant when I said we know who Ricky Stenhouse is.
Yeah.
Yeah, so he's got a record on him. he's
Yeah, and that record would explain a lot of his history as far as not performing. I think that explains more of his performance issues than the equipment would, to be honest with you. And yeah, nothing wrong with that. He's aggressive. You know, he's got some wins. I really think this is going to be a huge, huge test for him this weekend. I don't foresee him running. I don't see him advancing. I'll leave it at that. But Bristol, it's going to be a big opportunity for him. He runs well here. He could really, really come out and make a statement, you know, and prove everyone wrong. But I just don't see it happening.
Yeah, I don't expect him to be the dark horse for any of the future races. I honestly, the only thing that would surprise me if he manages to string together maybe 1 or 2 more top tens, because right now I'm seeing a sort of, for lack of a better descriptor, Derek Cope type effect. Right, it wasn't his first win. It wasn't at the. No, sorry, Cope's win was at the 500, but he did manage to win. Even in his case, actually thinking about it now, he at least won again that same season at Dover. So he at least string something together with garbage equipment. I mean, that stuff was, I don't care what anybody says, that 10 car sucked with borrowed engines and everything else, and you could still string something together. And speaking of Cope, funny enough, and maybe that's where some of the luck or lack thereof is coming into it. If I'm not mistaken, Ernie Cope, Derek Cope's brother, I believe is still working for JTG. I could be off base on that, but I know he was for quite a while, and especially in recent years after he worked with JR for a little bit. So that's a little bit of a fun fact.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah, so that's cool to see. Where else to go from here?
One thing I don't think we touched on, Dale Jr. back at Bristol this weekend.
Thank you for reminding me. I was like, I'm forgetting somebody very I mentioned JR and it still didn't click. I'm a genius, can you tell? That is very cool. I mean, that is, I don't know if it's still his absolute favorite place, but it might still be his favorite place on the schedule. I love the Bristol night race. I could take or leave the dirt race. I could take or leave the day race when it was paved, but the night race, regardless of what era it's been in, especially in my lifetime, has always been great. If it's a truck race, Busch race, even those could be wreck fests, cup race, it has transcended any kind of bad thing, quote unquote, that could affect it. It took a literal a freak snowfall, I think a Busch race, for it to try and stop the greatness of that place at any point in time. And I think it's really cool, and to some extent doesn't surprise me. that Junior would show his face there. How about it though, Zach? It's pretty cool. Huh?
No, yeah, I'm definitely excited. Grew up a huge Junior fan. Um, I've gone to watch a couple of his late model races in person the last year or so. Uh, Always love watching him on the track, man. Takes me back. Um, Hope to see him do good this weekend. He said he's coming back because he misses Bristol. So absolutely, his heart's there. It's going to be a great show to watch.
Yeah, Shawn, you got any other thoughts on that one?
No, not really, man. I'm super excited too. I'll be honest with you. I don't want to be that guy, but I'm gonna say it. The only thing I'm concerned about is Junior's not gonna risk anybody's opportunity to win a championship, and he's coming back to race a one-off race in the playoffs. So I hope he runs really well, and I hope he races just like we remember old Junior racing. But I think he's gonna give guys a lot of room. He's got 3 cars in the playoffs himself. I know he's not going to mess anyone's chances up. So I've seen him come back to these late model races where he doesn't want to mess up anybody's, track record or anybody's, good run, and he'll run mid pack. And I kind of hope that doesn't happen, but kind of what I'm anticipating, unfortunately.
That is kind of what I'm anticipating too, to be honest. And I think it would be in his best interest regardless. I mean, I agree with you in the sense that it'd be really cool if like he was there to run for the dub, whatever. But at the same time, it's like, hey, just a glorified nostalgia trip for him. And
Absolutely. Yeah, I'll be glad to see him back on the track, back in the car. I mean, don't get me wrong. Like I said, I didn't want to be that guy, but realistically, he's racing a one-off race in the playoffs.
No, yeah, and absolutely, I could see, if Junior's there at the end and one of his cars is in front of him, he's not going to push. But, fingers crossed, Junior's there at the end and there's a non-playoff car in front of him and they can just race.
there's that possibility. He's done it before. I know he's accidentally gotten into one or two people at Martinsville in the past. Racing for a position for people that may or may not have been in the playoffs. So he will still try to do something. But especially if it's his own cars, or especially if it's somebody that's like guaranteed to be, well, maybe not the outright champion, but like a likely, if not least contender, but likely outcome, he's not gonna mess with that. He doesn't want to be the guy to be like, especially since he's on his like nostalgia trip. He doesn't want to leave there going, damn it, I wrecked somebody today, and I ruined their championship, and I'm gonna be talking to him if I haven't already on the show, and it's gonna be awkward sitting across from him where he doesn't want to try and swing him in the face, And on top of that, the bill I got to pay for it, no thanks, not for me. So I don't think JR wants that, none. So. Especially not if I was him. But yeah, that one's gonna be really cool to see. And another one we mentioned him a few times. But Gregson, I knew he was going to get reinstated soon, but I didn't know it was going to be this soon. I know a lot of people are like, there's no way, he's going to be, not doomed to, but he's going to be stuck doing late model stuff for the rest of his career until something happens or, somebody dies or whatever, or he's going to have to run for some weird operation to maybe do like a limited schedule. Nah, he's back. And for now, at least, he's running, it's ASA, right? Is that what he's doing? I forget where it's at.
Yeah, he's running ASA at Toledo.
So we can look forward to that some. I know that you're the biggest fan of us three. I love what Noah's about too, but I want to hear your thoughts because I'll let you lead in on this one. Tell us your thoughts about the reinstatement.
No, so obviously ecstatic that he's reinstated. Happy for him. Glad that he did what he had to do. Put his nose to the grindstone. Put in the work. And NASCAR acknowledged that. As far as future plans, I really have no idea where he goes from here. Obviously, some late model stuff would be cool. He has, some super late model wins, not that long in the past. And like Dale Jr. said on his podcast, he really just needs to get his confidence back up. Man took a blow. I know it really affected him in a lot of ways. and to get back out there in victory lane, be good for him. Hopefully, something turns up and we can see him in NASCAR again next year, whether that be Truck or Xfinity Series. I don't think we'll see him in the Cup. It would be amazing if that's whose arm we were looking at, but I have looked really hard, and I don't think it's Noah's arm. But something will turn up. He's too talented to not be on the track. 8 wins and runner up in the championship points in Xfinity last year. Um, that'll help a lot of people overlook a lot of things, and somebody's going to take the chance on Noah, and hopefully he rewards them taking that chance, and there's a lot of success in his future.
Well, yeah, the folks at home won't know this, but I remember telling you, Zach, especially, like, hey, first of all, he's going to get reinstated mighty soon. It's probably not. I think I said it was the earliest going to be like the middle of next season or something. But I said at the time, you know, oh my God, the worst thing that he can do for him right now is that they can do for him right now is he has to drive cars he likes, like late models. Oh Jesus, no, how awful! You know? And that's what he has to do. Like again, like going back to Larson, like that's what when that whole debacle happened, he did the same thing. Nose to the grindstone. He went to driving sprint cars and impressed and impressed and impressed and getting W's left, right, and center, demolishing competition until somebody had to notice, and that somebody was nobody special, Rick Hendrick, you know. And that's the same thing here. He's going back to what he's good at to show that, like, hey, I know these are quote unquote just late models, even though that's its own type of serious, real deal competition. It's very stressful in its own right, very challenging in its own right. But look, I can do this. I'm still somebody you want. It's not. I've been in a cup car before. I'm not an idiot. But I can do more than just this late model deal. I can do something with this. I just need a shot. And not only has that happened, and is continuing to do that anyway, with the announcement of the reinstatement, but he is continuing to make himself valuable, for lack of a better word, and giving himself that credence and credibility that he needs to at least have that in his back pocket, just like Larson did, to make himself more valuable to those that are prospective once something opens for him, which I hope is very soon. Maybe we'll hear something around the time of the championship, or maybe even a week or two's time, that will help lock him in something, and for next year, and this whole deal will just be a bad dream for him. And on to the second biggest Gregson fan, Shawn. What you reckon?
I think the number one priority for Noah Gregson is to get back into victory lane. I really don't believe the series matters at this point. I think he gets back in the seat, gets back in victory lane. I think that'll go a really long way for him, whether it's an ASA or hey, if he does get a truck ride or an Xfinity ride, which is what I see happening. I believe someone will put him in an Xfinity seat. I mean, he have 8 wins in 2022. Is that, I believe it was
8 wins, and I mean the 10 may be open in Colleague next year if Hemrick goes to Cup.
Yeah, I don't know what car is open, but I know that if you had 8 wins a year ago, I feel like you should be on the radar for someone. So that's what I see happening. I feel like the truck would be good, just as far as the comparability to the next gen car. Um, but I don't think he had a good time in the next gen car. I don't think he was having fun. I think he struggled. I think going back to Xfinity, running for a championship again, getting another team. I mean, obviously he was with a really good team, but if he doesn't get hooked up with a good team, his talent should allow him to help to propel another team to the playoffs, possibly, which would be even more rewarding for him. That's what I see happening. I see him getting in victory lane, whether it's late models, whatever, and then getting back into the Xfinity series possibly next year and doing what he did last year. That's my hope for him, at least.
I think so. And like you said, somebody's gonna notice, even if it is just like a Bush, Jesus Christ, Xfinity ride or something. People, if they aren't already noticing, they will notice. And in the meantime, the only awful thing he has to do is enjoy himself. He's definitely in his element now. ASA late model stuff. He's gonna get W's. I have no doubt about that. And it won't be too long before he'll do his Tim Richmond get up and his stride, and he will, even though he's starting from scratch, again, it'll be just like a bad dream to him, and he'll be right back at it. And I think you hit on another very good point there, and that's the fact that I don't think he was having fun. This is fun. We're having fun. He's not enjoying himself in that, and it's, the next gen car is just weird. As is the truck. They're weird too, but that's a known factor. The fact is, and I'm guilty of forgetting this myself, the Cup car at least, is practically still brand new. I mean, we've managed to make incredible strides for what it's worth, especially this season, but over the last season too, toward the end and the off season speed weeks. But it's still practically, in my mind, it's still just as new as it was last season, and it's just so different, and it's thrown a lot of people for a loop. I mean, I hate to keep bringing Larson up again. I know people in the comments are like, shut up, but we saw the difference, the big difference, not just because the championship hangover that affected him going from the Gen 6 to this next gen, or Gen 7 as it actually is, right? And what that's done, and that's not even counting all the other things that happened to him in the season, but the fact that he's driving this thing, and it's just so weird, it's an unknown entity, and it's just such a different car than, if you're already somebody that does okay in Cup cars, you're now starting from scratch. Everybody's starting from scratch. We're still seeing great people or great drivers do great things as if nothing's changed, I mean, we're even seeing Harvick and SHR equipment do incredibly well for what it's worth in a brand new car, but it's because of that, and because of how good these guys are, it hides the fact that it's still going to throw a lot of people, again, namely Gregson, for a loop, and Larson for a loop. So I think that now he's had that glorified training regimen to help experience and learn from this. By the time he comes back, he will be ready. I mean, he'll have that break, so of course a lot of things he learned he'll forget, but once he does get going again, he'll be right back into his stride. So for now, Gregson, enjoy yourself, man. Do the thing you love so much, and get yourself another snowball derby win. How about that? How about you do that? Guarantee yourself some extra eyes to you, because they'll be coming to you.
Yeah, look, man, this guy cares more about his fan base than probably any other driver in the entire sport. I mean, it's unreal. I've met him personally. He takes time out of his day to, to drive around the tent camping, just to see his fans. No one does that anymore. He's extremely, involved in his fan groups. He's just an all around awesome dude, and I'm positive he'll be fine. He just, like I said, priority is getting back in victory lane, just getting back to doing what he was doing before, kind of writing this year off and just starting over. There's nothing wrong with that, and I think he'll have plenty of opportunities. You don't have 8 wins in 2022 and not have any opportunities. There's just no way.
Yeah, and I love that. I'm glad that you forgot about. I forgot about that part. Yeah, I'm glad that you brought that up. Is what he does for the fans, and in general, he's still very much a personality. I mean, I unfortunately, the only thing until this all happened was I thought he had that dumbass mushroom haircut that he had, that zoomer haircut that some folks had. But that's the only thing I could hate on him for. I mean, if that's what I got.
But I mean, a man has to honor his bets, right?
Yeah, that's true. That's the part. That's okay. You hit on something there. In fairness to
him, he looked goofy, and it hurt extra hard when Ross punched him in the face, and I got to watch that little haircut bob. But at the end of the day, man of his word.
And that's a testament to who he is. He is a man of his word, and he cares about people, and he cares about what other people think of him, and wants to make corrective actions. And that's huge. And he understands what fans mean to the sport. And in general, he's a personality, with or without a mushroom haircut. The dude is, and that's the only thing I could ever hate on him for, was that. And it's just a look. It's like, Jesus, I can be petty like that, forgive me. But, and the other thing that it leads me into is there's a lack of personalities in the sport. We have professional people out the wazoo. A lot of these young guys, and they don't come from nowhere, and they're all great. But even Larson's guilty of this too. Like, the guy can drive almost goddamn anything and everything, but it's like, yeah, thanks Hendrick, all this. Like, okay, fine, thank you, people, whatever. Do talk, you know, at least show something, you know.
Well, see, that's what we love so much about Gregson. That's why I mean, Zach's obviously a bigger fan than I am, but we come from a time period whenever, Tim Richmond ripped the fire suit open and kissed the trophy girl
We
and
need that
cracked a
again.
beer in Victory Lane and
Yeah,
was like, hell yeah, I'm the best there ever was. And that was just normal for us, and we lost it. And then all of a sudden, Gregson comes in here and throws up on himself and hops out and was like, "Yeah, I'm the best." Rips his fire suit open, talks about punching people on pit road. It's just you gotta love someone like that. I mean,
Oh, absolutely. I mean, watching him climb the fence at Darlington was the night that I knew that I was going to cheer for that man the rest of his career.
yeah. So yeah, like I said, he just needs to reinvent himself. He just needs to take a step back. Uh, there's nothing wrong with it. Plenty of people have had bad runs in the Cup Series, take a step back, and then gone on to be extremely successful. And what happened to him on social media, I believe, probably made him a better person. I don't think he's going to lose his personality because I don't think his personality was built around what happened. So I'm not concerned with that in the least. But yeah, just keep on doing what he's doing. You know, he's the people's champ, man. Just gotta get back in victory lane. Just gotta get his confidence back up, and he'll do it. He's probably on the road right now. If he can do it at Toledo, he's with Rhett Jones Racing. Uh, those are ARCA champions. Uh, he's opportunity to really get his foot back in the game this weekend.
which brings me on to something else. I want y'all's honest opinions. How many personalities do we really have left in the sport? I mean, I'd say Chastain is still one, even though he's kind of muted himself in interviews and so on. But
They neutered his
they
personality.
they did, and we mentioned why. But who we got left? We got Allmendinger and maybe Allgaier left. We don't got much left. I mean, even this, I came into the sport a little bit later than y'all did. But when I was coming up, again, Spencer, yeah, Harvick had his runs with a lot of people. Tony Stewart, Jesus, Robbie Gordon specifically, Christ, I don't know how many rivalries he didn't have. I mean,
Yeah.
Mr. Excitement. We don't got that kind of stuff no more. I mean, I understand that you
Well,
gotta
right.
have people to back the sport and give us money to enjoy this goddamn thing, but Christ, let them do something.
Well, right now in the Cup Series, you have Logano. I would call him a personality, and he's hated for it, to be honest with you. And
Yeah,
I don't
I'll
know.
give you that one.
Yeah, I'm neutral on Logano. I think he's very important for this sport. I've always looked at him kind of the same way I looked at Kyle Busch. And honestly, I hated Kyle Busch because he drove for Toyota, but that was the only reason. I thought his personality was extremely important to
Them
the
cheating
sport.
Toyotas. Sorry, I
Yeah.
saw on him. Go on.
But you gotta have drivers like Logano and Busch in order to make things interesting, and they've done a really good job. But yeah, you're right. I mean, majority of drivers now, especially in the Cup Series, are self-censored, and I believe they kind of have to be. We've seen what happened this year, especially with drivers kind of opening up. I mean, Denny Hamlin's case in point. You know, he was one who preached about drivers needing to have personality. He showed some and got penalized for it. Um, and I'll be honest with you, I never liked Denny Hamlin, and I still really don't. But I respected him a ton when he said, "We don't have enough personality. I'm going to bring some personality in here," and then stood back and said, "Well, shit, I guess I can't because you guys are going to penalize me." And he actually brought the fight to NASCAR. I got to respect him for that because, as a fan, I'm begging for personality. He tried to bring it, got penalized, and then fought for it. So, yeah, no, you're right. There's really not any more. If we're coming from the early '90s. I mean, we've seen personality like nobody's business. When personality was the best. So yeah, it's a night and day difference. So that's why I think people like Gregson are extremely important. Um, yeah, and hopefully it's turning for the better.
Yeah, pretty much agree 100% with everything you said there. One thing I want to add, one personality I do see coming up is Carson Hocevar. Kid can drive, and you know he's not afraid to let him know.
I forget how young he is. I see him in interviews sometimes. I go, Christ, yeah, he's like 20 or something, eh? And I'm like, Jesus, he looked like the average.
I think
like,
he is
Blink 180
20.
Yeah, he looked like the
He,
average like Blink 182 fan or something. Like, Jesus, what? Who the hell is this guy? I thought it was like one of the fans getting interviewed or something. It's like, oh, there's the tagline. It's Hocevar. It always throws me for a loop every time I see him. It's great. Sorry, go on.
but no, even case in point, in the Cup race Sunday, he was doing pit reporting. Just kind of hijacked the broadcast, and it was it was good. You know what I mean? Like I enjoyed watching it as a fan.
No, it's great. But what I'm concerned with is when he gets to the Cup Series, I feel like it gets neutered, uh, and it seems to always be that way. You know, think about how many personalities have come out of the Xfinity Series that you're excited about. I mean, Centric was electric. Blaney was electric. You know, it's for whatever reason that Cup Series just sucks it right out of them. I don't know if it's the competitiveness or the professionalism or what it is, or it
It's
could
all
be
them
coming from
boardroom
NASCAR
meetings.
itself.
Yeah, it's all
I
them
was
boardroom
gonna
meetings.
say, I think that there are multiple million reasons why they get neutered when they make it to Sundays. Anytime you're dealing with that much money, um, they're going to want to control you and steer what you say and how the public perceives you. That they have handlers; they're professional athletes.
No, absolutely,
So
which is why it would be nice if NASCAR said, "Look, we're going to welcome some personalities, and you guys are still going to get paid. You know, your money's not going to be in jeopardy, but just allow them to be themselves a little
no,
bit."
I agree.
Yeah,
That's what I would like to see.
because it would be healthy for everybody involved. Like, I don't have a business degree, but I hung around marketing folks and stuff like this. And I've seen how these people think, and I think that they'd even be inclined to agree that it would be healthy for the
Well,
fans.
here's a very, very small case in point example. I hated Denny Hamlin, and I hated everything that Denny Hamlin stood for. I had refrained from using FedEx if I could because of how much I hated Denny Hamlin.
I'm using
Whenever he
UPS. Sorry.
whenever he started his podcast, and I actually heard a little bit of his personality, and I heard that he wanted to better the sport and was just a competitor through and through. I actually slightly became a fan. Now, I don't know if I'll ever become a fan of Denny Hamlin because he drives for Toyota and Joe Gibbs, and that's beside the point. The point is hearing his personality made me appreciate Denny Hamlin's position in NASCAR. And and NASCAR immediately turned around and penalized him for that. So that's a very small case in point, is that I became a fan of someone just simply because I was allowed to have a look into their personality other than them just driving a car. And NASCAR penalized them for that almost immediately. So
Yeah.
just imagine that tenfold. Just imagine every driver being allowed to express their personalities. What that would do for sponsorship opportunities. I guess it could go back and forth. It could be bad, but for the most part, I would imagine it would be really good. Just people being able to connect because these are real people. I mean, you go to the racetrack and these guys are walking around driving golf carts and talking to people and signing autographs. These guys are real people. Why do they have to act like robots on TV? They should have personalities. We should be able to connect with them. We should be able to, understand where they're coming from, whether it's good things or bad things. Like, I don't want to rant, but another perfect example
No,
is
rant's
Chase
good.
Elliott
I
and
want you to tell
Kyle
me everything.
Larson,
Yeah.
the pit road incident. Uh, the way Chelsea, and he has to, I get it, but the way Chase Elliott acted after, ramming his car into Larson, we all saw it. We're not blind. The way he acted was just so confusing. It's just zero personality and like robots. and that's the last thing you want to do. If you got a guy who's not a fan of Chase Elliott, but he likes racing occasionally. He sees Chase Elliott swerve into Larson, who's a teammate. This guy's gonna be like, "Oh man, what's he doing with a teammate?" He's gonna look into Chase Elliott, and if Chase Elliott had a little bit of personality after the race, he could have a fan. He could have a fan for life just for that one incident, and that's a negative incident. Imagine if it was a positive one. Just I feel like the personality opens the door for so much more than what we have now.
It's needed, and especially in Chase Elliott's case with his robotic answers. I mean, it wasn't all that long ago. We remember the pit interview last year after they ran at the Glen. And he's like, he even forgot what track they were going to next week. He's like, I can't wait. No, I'll try to do it properly here. I can't wait until we go to Bristol next week. It's like, dude, we can tell. I understand you don't want to piss off Napa and all them, but look here, right? Just be honest. Hey, Larson, motherfucker, whatever. Just like, this guy's a dick. I can't believe the things he's doing out there. At least be honest once. Hell, you can go on Twitter or whatever and go, I can't believe I acted the way I did out there. But at least in the moment, try it once, right? Be honest
But
with
see,
people.
that's pretty similar to my take on Chastain last year. Now, granted, it's been a whole year and things have changed since then, but Chastain last year, he could have taken NASCAR by storm. He could have been the most popular driver, hands down, if he would have just accepted the way he drove. Now, here's what I mean by that. His run-ins with a handful of drivers. If he came in to pit road and did his interview and said, "Look, I'm sorry for junking cars, but I'm trying to win. Like, I signed this contract in order to put this car in victory lane, and I will do everything I can to make that possible." I'd have tore through a brick wall for Ross Chastain. I mean, I'd have bought every single shirt that was on a shelf. I'd have
Hell yeah.
supported any sponsor he would have had. But no, he didn't. Instead, he said, "You know what? I may not be that good of a driver. I apologize. I'm sorry I ran into him." And I was like, man, you missed a perfect opportunity. If you would have just come out and said, "Yeah, of course I took him out. Of course I ran into the back of him because I'm driving to the front and he was in my way." People would have been like, that is Earnhardt reincarnated. But he didn't. He didn't do it, and he missed out. And that's what NASCAR is lacking. I remember Earnhardt getting out of his car in victory lane, and someone would ask him about a run-in on the track, and he would just brush it off and say, "Aren't we out here to win?" And everyone would be like, "Yeah, that's right," and just that's what made him so lovable, is that he just drove that car to the front, and it didn't matter what happened.
And think about what he did for the sport just existing. I mean, let alone his talents, but like just him being him. Especially through the golden era, which was a little bit before my time. But like, one of my favorite. I'll try to, and I'll remind myself later to make sure I include this clip in the description later. But one of my absolute favorite things was, as you mentioned, like some of the post race interviews. There is footage of him and Tim Richmond, in '86 at Martinsville. Oh, sorry, this is even before that. This was back in the 27 car, an old Milwaukee car for Tim. This was like 84, 85, beating the ever-living hell out of each other. These looked like destroyed battle cruisers. They didn't look like cup cars no more. Dale's car alone almost looked like half a modified, okay? There was nothing left of these things. And all said and done, I think Dale gets the W. I forget where Tim finished. He probably blew up because he suddenly forgot where his transmission was. There's a story about that with one of his times in Darlington. But anyhow, but they're talking about it there, like, I forget what the pit reporter that came over to him asked about, like, you and Tim were leaning on each other pretty good there. It's like, well, what about it? It's like, oh, you got into a couple incidents there. There wasn't much left of your car. It's like, yeah. Didn't even give him anything to go off. Just like, yeah. So what's your point? It's
Yeah, that's because they were racing.
Did you forget what track this was? It's a paperclip called Martinsville. Y'all see that back there in 1 and 2 and 3 and 4? Yeah, that's your groove. You're gonna pass on the outside? Hell no, you're not. So you got to fight for that position. You got to be honest about it. And that's how he got popular, is by just being. He was the foil to everybody else. He was the intimidator, coming from 89 to 90. He was the guy. He was the man to beat. And sure enough, he was the man to beat, both in terms of talent, but like, you better not get in this because he's gonna do something about you. And if you did something to him, Of course, you ain't gonna appreciate it none, but it'll look at you after and go, "Hey, man, tell you something, man. I'd do that same thing if I was in your position. Good work out there."
Yeah.
But he's not gonna tell obviously not gonna tell the reporters that none. But in the garage area, hell yeah, because he cared about you. Because the problem is, I guess it's also partially a onlookers. The fault of a lot of onlookers too is people forget that there's an on-track personality and there's an off-track personality. And like I remember when I was, I think where was it now? It wasn't Kansas. It was someplace else. When Joey got stuck and he was yelling at the crew to tow his not tow his truck, but to move his truck. And and people were surprised. Like that was the reaction. It's like, guys, he's gonna lose a lap over this. He's beached. Hell yeah, he's gonna tell the crew to move the hell along. It's like, I can't believe it. Joey's this nice guy. It's like in the moment you're somebody else, whether you want to admit to it or not. It's just true. But in the garage area, you're just like everybody else is. You take that helmet off, and you're the nicest man in the world again. And I don't doubt. I had suspicions for a long time. I will admit this much, especially in his rookie years. I always thought Joey was just a dumb rich kid who was just as stupid as he was on track, as he was in the garage area, especially from some of the things that I heard. But you know, those were all rumors that turned out, and the guys actually fairly stand up. I would probably hang out with the guy, to tell you the truth. As much as I don't like some of the things he's been up to on track, kind of goes. I realize thinking about it now, what it probably sounds like to a lot of people. But as much as I, talk him down as far as some of the things I've seen on track in recent years, that's him on track. I'm sure as a dude, he's perfectly fine. But that's the difference.
Yeah, no, I think he's good for the sport. I have no qualms against Joe. I'm not a fan. Not a fan of Penske.
But it's healthy, right?
Yeah, no, absolutely.
It's creating
He's
discussion
needed.
now.
100%. 100% needed for the sport. I wish we had more Logano's on steroids. I wish we had more personalities. Like
give
we
us
used
more
to.
Harvicks and Tony Stewart's and Tim Richmonds and give us everybody. It's in everybody. We see it at a short track level. Hell,
Yeah, I mean
even
these
in
guys are
Canada.
race car drivers. They have personalities. They're there. I mean, they absolutely have to. You don't grow up in this type of environment without having a personality, without having an opinion, without having, aggression and all that. You just don't. I mean, we know it, but it gets neutered out of them. I mean, for whatever reason. We haven't heard from Zach in a while. I'm going to have to excuse myself here soon, boys.
Yeah, no, we've gone on for quite a while. Got quite a bit of editing to do, I suppose.
Perhaps so, but that's all well and good if that's what it comes to. But I think we can about wrap it up here, fellas. That'll about do it. Hopefully it's not been the worst in terms of mixing for y'all that are watching this in the end. But it's my first proper go at this, and it's been real fun to make this. So you guys can look forward to not just video essays or documentaries or whatever you want to call them, but stuff like this. And I'm really curious to see what y'all at home think about this, and honest feedback. If you thought it was great, let us know it was great. If you thought it was terrible, let us know it was terrible, and we'll go from there. And either way, it's been fun as hell. I'm glad that I got to do this one. It's kind of one of the pet projects that I had and teased, and I'm glad I can finally get it out there. And I'd especially like to thank these two for coming out today and making time for it. Zach, thank you once again for coming out and sharing your thoughts.
No, absolutely. Thanks for having us, Pat. We've wanted to do a project like this for a while too, so glad we met you, and looking forward to the future of this project. Like you said, to the audience, give us honest feedback. This is all of our first attempt at something like this, so I'm sure there's lots of things we can do better. At the end of the day, we're here for them. We want to bring them, the best motorsports podcast that we possibly can, and we'll need their feedback to get there. Like I said, I'm just excited. It's getting late. I'm a little tired and brain's not working right, but
nor is mine. I'm on different time zone.
It's a little bit of a dream come true to have a podcast, talk motorsports. I'm excited for the future.
Right on. And I don't. I'd also would like to just quickly reiterate this. This was actually originally Shawn and Zach's idea. It was a pet project that I had of my own too. I've done similar things in the past, so I do have some experience with this, but not the most. And I'm just glad that I can help facilitate it for these two. I'm just making it happen for them. It's kind of my dream too, and it just feels good to do it now that I actually know what the hell I'm doing, kind of. But Shawn, thanks also for coming out, and don't worry about rambling none. I want everybody to be talking as much as they want about however they feel about what they want. So don't even worry about that mess. But thanks for coming on out.
No, I appreciate that, man. Look, my goal, with this moving forward is just be able to talk about racing. To be honest with you, just motorsports in general. We do it pretty much every night, and we got together and decided that we probably should record it and broadcast it out there for everyone else to listen to if they would like to, which I definitely appreciate. Not an expert, but I love talking about it. Not always right, but everybody's got an opinion, right? So that's what makes it fun. So thanks for doing this, Pat. We'll keep it going.
It will be. The only way is up, as I keep saying. So the only way is up. More of these to come. I'm curious to see what everybody's feedback is, but I can't keep talking forever, so I'll just leave it at that. I appreciate y'all having a listen, and we'll see you all in the next installment of Thunder Night Podcast. Y'all take care.